So hello everybody. Thanks a lot for attending the presentation. So today I will explain how we use Cloud IDEs specifically to deploy security. And actually, I will explain to you a specific use case, and you can actually ask me questions, and hopefully there will be some questions. Just a few words about myself, since there's no speaker introduction. I just want to give you my background. So I'm Swiss, was born in Switzerland. I got my PhD about 22 years ago. I worked for IBM about 12 years, only in the US and Japan. And then I co-founded my first company called StrongCode in 2013 in Switzerland. That company got acquired by Snapchat. So I worked as head of cybersecurity in Switzerland for Snapchat for about 3 years. And then I co-founded my actual company called Strong Network. And this is part of the things that we do here in the company. So what are we trying to achieve? First, you've seen like many presentations of Cloud IDEs today, and you see there's basically a lot of benefits when using something that runs directly in the browser and has like the access to give you access to remote content. So they can definitely also use to provide data security. This is what we're focusing on as Strong Network, and especially I think one of the use cases that is very interesting for that is the use of employing a distributed workforce and especially being efficient while doing that. So what we're trying to achieve mainly by doing this is like you want to have something that you deploy cost effectively. You want to have full development environments that you can give access to these environments, to people regardless of the location. And you want also to be able to, set some standards around security and what people can expect in terms of also guarantee of comfort, but security shouldn't be basically hindering the quality of the experience. It's very important. But nevertheless, the company wants to protect the assets, so they would like to, make sure that there's no, it's difficult because in security there's no 100% security, but like it's difficult to exfiltrate data. It's difficult to, access data that you're not supposed to access, and especially it's difficult to circumvent the platform basically that you provided to work. So that's mainly what we're trying to achieve here. I'll be more specific on type of security we want to achieve in this case. And also the last thing is definitely not the least one is you want to foster a sense of efficiency when doing distributed collaboration. So the setting here is like, we want to employ people anywhere in the world, regardless of the location, and you want to make sure that this is going fine. So that trend here is not a new trend. Actually, it's been going on for a few years. I think it was exacerbated by the pandemic, by people working from home. But the working habits of developers have been changing, and talent scouting is really spanning the global, the global, for local organization, they even they will be leveraging the remote workforce, having people working in a location. And there's a term that you can put for that. You can actually use that. Is called trusted liquid workforce. This is something that an article that I wrote in Medium last year. I inspired the title from the liquid workforce concept by something that was coined by Accenture, I think 2016, on the vision document. And I just put like a spin on it. I call this trusted workforce. If you're interested, you can actually go on Medium and read about the article. And this is basically what, the reality for many companies today. They need to employ people around the world, right? And they want to discuss cost efficiently, and they want to make sure that, they also preserve the security of their assets. So what type of development are we targeting today? It's since I didn't make the assumption that everybody's super familiar with Cloud IDEs, especially what kind of development you can achieve with this. But here we're mainly talking about development of web applications. We've seen a lot of different use cases today during the other presentations. Here we're talking about code development and web application development, but also you do mobile. It's actually quite easy to do mobile. Even you would think that mobile will be more difficult in a Cloud IDE because you need to have this kind of local connection if you want to test the device on your laptop, because you might have local device for this, but actually it's actually very possible to do this and the good thing is by preserving the security model. So this is something that is possible. So this is mainly what we target in terms of development. So what we don't do in contrast is the development of fat clients. It's possible also to have development of I mentioned here Linux, but you can also have development on Windows, because we can also have it. It's all based on containers. So because what Cloud IDE gives you, its access is to a container that is usually deployed on a remote server, and that container can be not only a Linux-based container like Ubuntu, Fedora, but also Windows containers. It's possible to do this kind of development as well. Just also, this is to remind people what we're doing here in terms of access, what kind of capacity we give to developer. So the developer will get access to an Ubuntu machine, or any Linux machine, but a Windows machine. But in our case, we use Ubuntu machines here. We can do pretty much anything. Well, we have also things based on Red Hat, I think, which is commercial distribution. So that works very well. And the what we call a workspace is a combination of multiple things: an IDE, a browser, and although everything will be executed locally on the laptop of the developers, you can actually use multiple IDEs, which can support like VS Code, JetBrains, or terminals. And you will get access to a container that runs in the cloud here, and that will be based on Ubuntu, and you will be working directly on that container. So there's many advantages for this. I think this being explained many times between yesterday and today, but just for the sake of completeness, I like to report that the data is not actually living here on the laptop. The developer is actually living on the cloud that deploys the container, and you will have basically a connection between these things here, and everything will be. There's definitely an aspect of efficiency here that needs to take care of, and people that have perhaps a bit more experience with the industry, this kind of setting might very much remind you the one of the VDI, the virtual desktop infrastructure, but restricted basically to the development environment. It's nothing to do with a VDI in terms of features, because a VDI is with a desktop, but like in this case, this is restricted and limited to a development environment. So this is a propose, and if you think about that, that relationship between Cloud IDEs and VDIs, you can think that the business model that we use for VDIs, which is on board remote users, can be very much applied to the case of a Cloud IDE. So let's say we decided to hire people that could be located anywhere, and we would like to do these Cloud IDEs for the sake of efficiency. Now we also want to protect our assets, and this is what I'm trying to represent here with these pictures, is that we can actually implement a good data protection framework like Zero Trust. So Zero Trust is based on the NIST specification 800-207. And the goal here is to create an infrastructure around all these resources that will give you a lot of benefits, towards security. Will be to monitor what's the access of on data, what's happening, who is accessing to what, in which condition, which context, and so on. I think it's really an enabler for global business processes. In that case, that the fact that people can work from anywhere. And I also actually wrote an article on that. If you're interested, you can look at this on Medium. Explain how Zero Trust can really help to create these global business processes, because this is the way people are working today, and I think it gives an idea how this can be implemented. So the goal here is to connect certain type of resources, and there's actually many use cases here within that framework. Is that you want to connect self-hosted resources. The company can have their own a Docker registry, private Docker registry that will basically contain all the software stacks that the developers would use to do the job. It could be API, internal services, and so on, and it could be also privately hosted resources on the company's cloud. So that could be Git applications, data buckets, and all those things. And last but not least, here it's really very common that especially for small companies that they won't host or their own data repositories, but they will use a public resource for that. So here you would have GitHub, GitLab, and this type of things, Bitbucket. I mean, you name it. There's many things, different things, and the goal here is to implement a zero trust architecture across all these resources. And the goal here is that once you've done that, and I'm going to give a bit more explanation how to do this, but once you've done that, is give you an integrated data protection mechanism that enables a global setting for organization to hire employees regardless of their location. This is very efficient because you want to grow your workforce, you want to have this liquid workforce concept, especially on a trusted setting, so trusted liquid workforce, and this is what we're trying to achieve here. And one of the great advantage here, and this is where I think it becomes very, very efficient and attractive for companies, is that this is security that is fully cloud delivered, right? So there's no need to install anything on the laptop. You can actually be also more secure and install some little thing on the last laptop, and I'm not gonna explain too much this in detail. But the concept here is that you can have mostly cloud delivered security, and there's a concept for that. I think going by Gartner is called the SASE, it's a Secure Access Service Edge, which is type of security that doesn't need any installation on the endpoint. So one of the tenets I think of a ZTA, Zero Trust Architecture, is that we need to achieve microsegmentation across the resources accessed by basically the developer desktop. So this is representing the developer desktop, and you want to achieve as many possible level of segmentation so that you can make sure that you will provide the most restricted access to the person. The person has everything she needs to work, but nothing more. And especially there's no margin for error, right? So you make sure that by guaranteeing this level of microsegmentation, there won't be any chance for that something was misconfigured or something was not done properly, and unfortunately some data was leaked because of this thing. So microsegmentation really a concept using security to really make sure that resources are really managed very tight in a very diligent manner, and there won't be any leeway for mistake. So in this case, you can think about 4 levels of microsegmentation. First of all, you want to make sure that level 1 here, the business process, you make sure that the developer is really using your workspace that you provided to him to access your resources, not something else. So that everything you want, every access to your resources will go to their workspace. So this prevents them to use their own laptop, for instance, as to access your repo. So you make sure basically that the authentication here is done that only can be done in a way that it guarantees that is really the desktop that was the Cloud IDE, the desktop that was provided, the workspace that was provided to the developer that will here indeed be used. The second thing is the access protocol. You want to make sure that this person is not using a protocol that actually might be harmful to your company or your assets or your data. So you can enforce, for instance, SSH as a protocol of choice to access your data. There's level 2. You cannot access this to HTTPS, for instance, but SSH only. The third level here is you could say you want to make sure that the domain of the resource is guaranteed. That person cannot access a different domain than the domain where your resource is stored. So it does, prevents him to access a host that was actually not, it's not the one he should be accessing. And last but not least, here's the level 4. You want to give access to a single project and not an entire application. This is, we call this narrow radius. This is also a term that we coined in that concept, in that context. And you can give access to a remote developer to a single repository as opposed to an entire application. Obviously, you can configure the application so that only it has the permission only for a single repo. But what if the application is misconfigured? So that's basically an additional level of guarantee. So just to recap, and I want to show you a demo of how that works, because I think it will be very concrete when you see the platform. So let's say you want to hire developers that are working remotely for you. First thing, you will go on the platform, and you will send an invitation to these people for them to join the platform. The second thing, with the connect, you will connect your data resources, code, data buckets, Git application here, and last here you will provide them with totally installed workspaces. Then they can start working on your data, and they should not have to do anything. You shouldn't have to give them credentials, especially if everything should be completely managed by the station. So think of it, there's no need for these guys to install anything. This is the IT efficiency. There's no need for this guy to have any credentials. Everything will be managed on their behalf. And you want these people to be efficiently collaborating, so we have more features and function towards that effect. So just before we jump into the demo, this is not replacing, because sometimes this is questions that we're getting on that, especially if you work with Cloud-IDE. This is not replacing any of the tools I've been using before. This is not replacing Azure pipelines, GitLab. This is really integrating perfectly smoothly in that DevOps cycle, and this is and the platform really and the Cloud IDE will really take place here only, and the coded stage of the thing. So I have a first question here. Are there geographic restrictions with virtual machines? This is a really good, very good question, because this is exactly one of the things that we're addressing here, is that we have completely multi-region. So we can actually deploy the virtual machine where this is the most efficient for the developer. So let's see, if you had was India, you might not want to have develop a virtual machine that runs in Frankfurt, for instance. So you want to have the virtual machine as close as possible so that it doesn't damage or don't give a lesser developer experience. So yeah, this is exactly so. Yeah, it could be blocked in the country B. Yeah, exactly. So you can also, this is also the question is like, it's an extension here. A hosted VM in country A could be blocked in country B. Any workaround if you do business in A and B. This is quite involved, and I can see where the situation can happen. It's actually a really good segue to the first question here, but because there's actually multiple aspects to this question. But yeah, I think this is something that should be looked in detail. But so far what we really looked at mostly is to guarantee the performance of the thing and make sure that the experience is not degraded. So let me just jump in the demo. So let's say I'm going to take exactly that scenario that we had before. I'm a project manager. I want to go on my platform. This is the platform. This is the public SaaS here on my project, and I want to invite a developer. So I go on the people workspace, people dashboard here. I'm going to invite person here. I'm going to invite this person here. That's going to be my developer here. I just put his email. I'm going to send here. I'm going to get him as a developer. There's multiple roles. We give you different permissions and so on. I'm going to invite the developer to the project here. And this is going to send an invite. And until that person has accepted the invite, I won't see anything here. So I just need to fake it and go to the email and go here and get here. The platform invitation came here. So this is it. And my project is called Panopticon. I'm going to accept the invitation here and so on. So the person here will be ready to sign in. I'm not going to sign in yet. I'm just going to continue things here. And I'm going to look at my dashboard again. I can see here the person accepted the invitation. So now she's actually, she's connected here. And And now we can start the work. So first thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to create a workspace for that person here. So let me actually remove this one. I'm going to create a workspace. And that's basically a virtual machine, but it's not exactly. It's actually a container running on a virtual machine. And I'm going to set up that thing. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to call this, Cloud IDE days. I'm going to use VS Code. I can use other IDs as well. I'm going to put that developer as the owner here. And I'm going to map an image. This is the container that I want to map on the IDE. Then I'm going to give resource access. So here, I can give access to my entire repo by allowing to use a personal key here to authenticate with the repository. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to give access to a single project. This one, for instance, got multiple projects, but this one. And I can also give uniquely read access, no write access. You can also do like, 4i reviews and this type of things here. And I'm going to give access to that person, to that thing. I can also share with secrets that it needs to work, connected services, data buckets. I won't go into details here. Then that allows prevention. I'm going to apply, this is where the zero trust comes into play. I'm going to apply a monitoring policy. I can restrict and inspect the traffic, but I'm not going to go details today, but I'm going to monitor the traffic. I'm going to also inspect other aspects of the workspace here. And now I'm actually launching the thing here. So now this is going to launch. So it's going to be deploying here. And, I can see there's an audit trail. I can see actually that I created some of the workspaces. I attached a network policy here and so on. I did the workspace. So there's a full audit trail, everything that's happening in the thing. So you can really do very easily audits. And especially if you want to ISO compliance, extremely simple in this case, because you have full audit trail of that. Now I'm going to log in. I'm going to log out here. I'm going to log in as my developer here. So here, my developer is going to log in here. And here I can see that's, here. There you go. The ID is still deploying. It's going to be available in a few minutes, in a few seconds, I mean, here. So it depends on the usage of the cluster, and if he finds like a machine immediately. Oh, you see, actually it's running here. So the machine is running here, and that actually developers here can go, start the IDE. This is VS Code, and everything is cloned. See directly here, there's the project was cloned. The person doesn't have to do SH keygen and start generating all the keys and stuff. And this the clone, the person can start working, can start editing the code, pushing the code, and without having to do anything. So all the configuration is done for her. She doesn't have to do anything to start working, and then the work can be done. Once the person is closing that thing here, obviously there won't be any data on the laptop. So it's safe for BYOD. If I'm now logging here again as my tech lead, the project manager, the person that created the workspace here, I can see that I have one workspace running here. I can see also the audit trail that the user logged to the platform here, logged to the platform. I can see basically the access of the person that here accessed the project and loaded that in the workspace. That was done actually automatically at the beginning. I can have also insights. So I can see basically, so there's not yet a lot of data because the person has really started working here. But once the person works, you will see basically what type of work she's doing, how much time she spent working on different aspects of the things. If she works on new features, debugging, refactoring, documentation, and so on. So you can have a full also performance assessments of what's happening with your, and you should really scale this to, hundreds of workspaces, and you can have distributed teams and manage your team like that. So, and when the person is done, I can just delete the workspace. I can actually, remove the user per project, and that's it. And the thing is gone. So see, it's really easy to get anybody work for you here. So yeah. So that's it. I'm done. So that was the end of the demo. So I'll see if there's any questions. I don't see any questions now. Yeah. Is this offering alternative? Yeah, actually, no. Okay, that's a really good question because it's a source of confusion. We actually support Eclipse Share. And the thing is, you can actually deploy exactly the same way we did with VS Code. You can have Eclipse Share, but it really doesn't replace any of the Bitbucket GitHub. This is what I was explaining here. Actually, I'm going to show you here all my resources here. I import them from GitHub. Just do a connection to GitHub. So this is just metadata. I'm actually not copying any of the repos, anything like this. It's just metadata. And that person will actually work on GitHub for you, but everything, all the traffic will be brokered to the platform that protects your data. So the person will be working here. Actually, the better thing is this one. She will be working, but everything will go through the platform. So the fact that see the platform as a broker to check basically what's happening on your GitHub, GitLab, and you can have multiple GitLabs, Bitbuckets, we support all those things. But the goal is really to give you a layer that will allow you to monitor what's happening on your repos. Yeah. Person added, sorry, meant Gitpod. Okay. Is offering alternative to Eclipse Share, GitHub, Codespace. Oh, okay. Oh, GitHub, okay. Yes, but actually, yes, it's an alternative to that, exactly. It's an alternative to that. Although in our case, we really focus on security. This is what we do. We totally focus on security. So, yeah. And we have a specific scenarios. Our scenario is really to hire remote developers, yeah. Yes, exactly. We do this. We do DLP, full DLP. You have this in the thing. You can actually, we full. Sorry, I'm reading the questions. Very minor question. Any copy paste protection? Yes, this is totally baked into the solution. We have that. Yeah. So we actually do what VDRs are doing with DLP. Yeah. Data loss prevention. And many other things. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks a lot for your questions. I guess we're done.